Okay, I got the 73 T100 turned around so I can work on the primary, of which I'm going to do this morning. Now, right now it's about 5 after 8 in the morning. Still relatively cool, barely in the 90s. Interesting how you can use the word cool in 90s in one sentence and reflect the local ideas of what's hot. Anyway, this is the bike. I'm going to open the primary, take a look inside, see what I see, go into the front sprocket behind it to the tranny main shaft seal. I've got about 2 hours to work on the bike before I have to get cleaned up, put up, put on some grown-up clothes, and go out and pick up the BMW that's being lent to me for the trip, and possibly I've had the couch in the coach. The couch in the coach. I've had the couch in the coach reupholstered, and I'm going to go pick that up. Hopefully today, possibly tomorrow. But I've got 2 hours this morning. Let's see how far into the bike we get.
We interrupt this video to explain that the next short segment has no sound. Don't know why, have to look into it. Anyway, what it's talking about is the fact that you have to take the primary chain adjuster out of the primary cover on T100s, the 500cc Triumphs, before you can take the cover off. And the fact that you have to take the plug out of the bottom of the cover and use a special tool to unscrew the primary chain adjuster and take it out. Otherwise, it will jam and you won't be able to take the cover off. So basically just how to take the primary chain adjuster off so that you can take the primary case cover off, and then we go into a short explanation of the parts, the tools required on the next segment. Sorry about the no sound. I'll have to figure out more about why that's happening as I do more of these videos. Carry on.
All right, here's the plug, and it's a mess. And it's supposed to have a really thick fiber washer here where that gray, probably plumber's putty is. This thin washer is not thick enough, and this stood a real good chance of cracking the case or the cover because this washer just isn't thick enough. So I'm going to clean this up before I put it back in. The second thing is this is a special tool that goes inside the drain that this plug covers and unscrews the adjuster. They make a nice special one you can buy. I made this out of a bolt. Just put a nice screw head in it, used the bolt, made the little screwdriver end on my grinding wheel, and it actually works nicer than the one you buy. So this is what I'm going to use to unscrew the tensioner, the primary chain tensioner. Let's see, it goes in here, engages it. You can feel it engaging, and then a screwdriver or a socket to undo it. I'm going to do that next. As soon as I let all this oil drain out of that primary. All right, the adjuster's out, the drain is open, and I'm going to take the cover off next. Over here, this is the plug cleaned up. You can see how mangled the head is from people using vice grips on it. It had one washer on it, which was too thin. I'm going to put 2 washers on it. That'll make it thick enough to fill in the shoulder under the head. This is the actual primary chain adjuster. It goes in the hole. This is the end that this special tool interacts with when you're undoing it. Pulls it out, unscrews it, and a socket and an extension make it comfortable. If this doesn't fall out happily into the oil pan like it normally does, this is a nice thin little magnetic puller that just went up in there and pulled it right out. That's just an aside. You usually don't need that. So anyway, I'm going to take the primary cover off now. I'm about to take a giant leap for mankind backwards. I think I was wrong. I don't think the tranny main shaft seal is leaking. I had the primary apart, I had the clutch out, I was getting ready to take the primary drive out, and I decided, you know, everything about this bike is right. Whoever worked on it last did really, really, really good work. So with my handy dandy flamethrower flashlight, I got underneath the bike, my whole body practically, got my hand up onto the transmission behind the front sprocket and could feel no oil. Now usually that's oily as heck when that seal is leaking. Then I went to the primary side of the sprocket looking for oil on the back of the primary case. There was no oil on the back of the primary case. I think I jumped the gun, because usually when a bike comes in with the syndrome that it leaks oil when it's on the side stand, well, that's because the side stand is the low side and all oil leaks, no matter where they are, end up dripping off the left side. So I decided that I was barking up the wrong tree, and I put the primary back together as tight as the drum now, and I went on a hunt. The hunt I should have taken before starting that primary take apart. And this is what I found. Let me get my flamethrower. Okay, look at the back of the oil tank. Can you see all that oil? Let me reach in there with my finger now and do this. And now I'll show you again. See that clean spot that I just made? That's a lot of oil in the back of that tank. So, that's something to look into. Second, the breather tube that comes from here, this is your crankcase vent, it goes back and also goes up here to the oil tank. This black tube right here is kind of short. If I walk over here, you can see that it comes up right here and goes into the tank. That's the breather. But it is so short, it's actually crimped right there. And when I take it off, which was not that hard, you can see how it's almost permanently crimped in half. I don't know what that would do, but that's not a good thing. So I'm going to replace this with a longer tube. Second, while I'm up here, look at the top of the oil tank. And there's a lot of oil in here. See that down in there? It's not over here. This is the dry side. Okay? But over here, it's pretty wet. A lot of oil. And if you follow the oil around, perhaps you can see it in there. That's a lot of oil on top of that oil tank. And it comes around here, and it goes down the front of the oil bottle, the oil tank. And it comes down here, and look at this mount. See how much oil there is on that mount? Let's zoom in. It's pretty well saturated with oil. And I think that oil is coming down the tank from up above and getting over onto that rubber bumper. Also, and then going down the rubber bumper, hitting a swing arm, and ending up right there. That's a vertical drop. Also, if you look at these two oil lines, this one is dry as a bone. This is the return line, and this one is your source line, and look at how wet it is. This clamp could be leaking right here. I'm going to tighten that. Also, look up above here. This junction has a lot of oil on it. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to tighten that. I'm not sure if I may even dump the bottle and take all these apart and clean them up and put them back together. So I'm going to do all that. And see the oil on that line in there? See it's shiny? The line in the back has oil all over it. The one in the front is pretty dry. There's oil in there in the frame. So this may be the source right here of the leak. All that underneath. So I'm going to start looking and tightening and cleaning. Over here, look, oh my goodness, we have another drip. Let me see. Can I find the drip? Let me open this up some. Okay, there's the drip. Right there. That is almost exactly underneath the sump plug. And these sump plugs are notorious for leaking. They're very difficult to tighten because they're very prone to stripping, because they're made out of cheese and they strip really, really easily. So I'm going to take that apart and I'm going to reseal it and put it back together. So I'm going to try these small leaks, fix these small leaks, and see if that doesn't solve the problem. And if it doesn't, then we'll do some more major stuff later after the bike has a few more miles on it. And if necessary, look at the main shaft oil seal, but I don't think that's the problem. So anyway, I've wasted the morning. I won't charge for it, of course. That wouldn't be fair. And I'm going to do some good things to some other parts. I'm going to fix up what I think might be the leaks. And that's where we are. A wasted morning. Okay, progress on the Plan B oil search, oil leak search, fix, possible remedy, what I've done. First of all, I took this complete assembly out of the, I drained the oil, pulled this complete assembly out, resealed up here, resealed in here, resealed down here, put a new clamp on. Everything's really, really tight. Put a new washer on the drain and resealed it, really, really tight. Up here, I put a new vent hose on the oil tank and clamped it down really, really tight. I cleaned the whole top of the oil bottle, top, sides, front, back,
So all the oil that we saw is gone. So any oil we see when we recheck things will have to be new. I even got in here and cleaned the cushion there. A little moisture left from the wash. So that's all clean. I used S100, which is a great engine cleaner. Cleaned this whole area. Cleaned underneath also, as best I could. I resealed the sump. Took the cap completely off. Cleaned it up. Resealed it. Tightened it on really, really tight. As tight as you can tighten without stripping. I've got that down to a pretty good art on those silly cheesy things. Over here I cleaned the backside of the tank, all that oil that was on it. So any new oil we see will be a new leak. This is the new tube that goes up the breather tube. It's clamped down here also. And I think that's about it. I think that's all I did. Anyway, at this point in time, I'm going to let the bike sit overnight. I always like to do that when I use gasket sealer, to let it coagulate, so to speak. I'll put oil in it tomorrow, fire it up, and then probably have the client come get it and ride it for a while and see if he can generate any oil leaks that I can then trace back to the source. So progress is being made, and I will put fresh oil in the bike tomorrow and start her up.